Hey everybody, welcome back to Faraday Research, and doing this next video, I'm going to be talking about the Don Smith generator. So what I've done is I got on the table here a few of the components that you need for the Don Smith generator. So I got the one set up, and what I did was I like the spark generator so much. Basically, this is a solid state Tesla coil. Uh, you, you can use them for rail guns, you could use them for Tesla coils, you can use them for air purifiers. So yeah, it's pretty versatile. It takes 12 volts in, the red and white wire at the back here, red and white one, positive, negative, and then you got your negative, and then your high voltage obviously is the big thick black wire there. That's where your high voltage spark comes out of. So I got a couple of them now, so I'm happy with that, so I can experiment. I've done a few things to the other one where I kind of put it under a lot of stress, and she runs flawlessly, so it's a good unit. I got the link up in the one video, I think just before this one, actually has the Amazon link, so you can order it. So yeah, so that's the first component. That's what generates the high voltage that you need for the Don Smith generator. The other vital component that we need in this thing is the spark gap. So what I did was I picked up a 2-inch diameter PVC. These are 1/4 inch 20 screws and bolts. And yeah, I just screwed them together. These ones here, I grinded them down to a point. I don't really like it too much. The one I have done just a flat end, I find is a lot more effective as far as spark gap. So that's another thing you're going to need. You're probably going to need 2 of these for your project. One for in front of the main inductor and one after the main inductor. Now I'm finding if you hook 2 of these guys up in series, the voltage output increases. So I'm going to show you some of Tesla's patents, and he has spark gaps in there, and he swears by the fact that the spark gap is somehow related to drawing in the radiant energy. And that's why he's getting his huge gains in power. Another very important component, it just came in yesterday, is my neon bulbs. So these are important when you're going to start tuning multiple coils together. And with this, I'm also going to have a 1K ohm variable potentiometer or pot. That's going to go with that. So when you have the 2 coils side by side, they have to be in resonant frequency with each other, and you would use the pot to change the frequency of the secondary coil, or the L2, to the proper frequency. And what will happen when it's in resonant frequency, these neon bulbs will start to light up. So when that's achieved, now you know the 2 coils that you're using, from your emitter coil to the receiving coil, where you're going to draw the power off, they have to be in resonance. If they're not, you will not get the power output. So these are very important. They just came on Amazon. They are let's see if I get the right package here. Yeah, they are the one. It comes with a 100K ohm resistor on it. So you hook it up positive, negative, and yeah, so when they come into tune with each other, these neon bulbs are going to light up, which is very important when you're tuning the coils. So those are the 3 main components. I forgot to get the capacitors, but you can pretty much toy around with different voltages and capacitance. Now, the ones I bought, they were 15 kVA, and they're like 2700 picofarad. It turns out they're way too big. I might be able to use them later down in the circuit, but for the one that goes with this guy here, it's got to be about 4.7 picofarad at 15 kVA. So that will basically sustain the spark and actually hold a higher voltage within that spark. So if you can sustain a high kVA rating, you're going to get more power out of your system. So the next thing I want to show you guys, there's a website out there called Tesla Universe. And on that website, they have Nikola Tesla's patents, the actual original copies of his patents for his free energy devices. As you can see, that's his actual signature, Nikola Tesla. And this patent here is the apparatus for producing electric currents at high frequency. So you have to understand, back in the day when he was doing all this stuff, he didn't have transistors. He didn't have solid state coils like this. He didn't have this fancy stuff. The neon bulb was just getting invented by him. Like a lot of the stuff here, he didn't have. He didn't have, the capacitors that we have today. They were all made. Everything was made. All he had was brass and wood to work with. You have to understand that there was no materials back then. So his stuff was pretty radical as far as, design. So he had to design it for what materials at that time, the 1890s, right? That's when he was developing the Tesla coil. He didn't have fancy spark gaps like we do today. He had to use a rotary switch because he didn't have a transistor to do it, or any other method of doing it, or a 555 timer circuit. He didn't have that stuff. It didn't exist. So these are kind of copies of his patents. Let's see here. That's one. And here's the other one that he had. This one's called Method Apparatus for Producing Currents of High Frequency. So it's another version. Now you have to understand, his over unity devices dealt with high currents and high frequencies. Now the stuff that we want to power is completely different. We're using low frequencies, 60 hertz at 120 volts. So after we build an apparatus similar to this, we have to now break it down. We have to bring all that voltage down and the frequency down. For beginners, that can be quite difficult to understand. But I'm going to be doing, I think, two different methods of doing it. I'm going to do it one the electronic way, and the other way I'm going to do, I call it the cheat way. But it's still very effective and it will work. So there's going to be two methods of breaking that voltage down to something that we can use to power our devices. Okay, that's one patent there. I like that one there. That one's a good one. This one's pretty easy too. You can go on to teslauniverse.com and they got all the patents there. They have quite a bit of information on Tesla there. It's actually pretty good. And here's another one of his patents. This one's apparatus for producing electric currents of high frequency and potential. So he's got the rotary spark gap. He's got the inductors. He's got his capacitor that was homemade. They're not like what we have today. And then it goes through a big induction coil. And then this one here, I believe, is the rotary spark gap. And then from there, it goes to neon tube. And that's the output there. So yeah, you can check these out. I actually printed them off just for doing this video today. There's another one. This one's a little bit more, pretty much the same thing. See, back in the day, he didn't have high voltage generators like this. He had to actually use current generators, that he designed that produce the high voltage that you need, right? And then you have the rotary spark gap. You got your capacitor, your induction coil, L1 and L2. And then from there, you hook up your load, your neon light. So, and also look at the date. This patent date was September 22nd, 1896. So we're talking like over 120 years ago. Actually, almost 130 years ago. he already had this stuff done. And, it just shows, how suppressed he was in his work. So, yeah. So, when I heard the video, them talking about the last meeting that all the electrical greats got together, and basically they had a dinner together. Steinmetz was there, Tesla was there, J.J. Thomson was there, a whole bunch of other electrical engineering geniuses at that time. They all got together for a meeting together, and they said, with the with the present technology that we have today and what we know about electricity, it's just a matter of months before we would be able to create a rotating apparatus that produces electricity with no prime mover. I repeat, no prime mover. So not only we're talking about a free energy device, we're talking about an over unity device and also a perpetual motion device. This was in just prior to 1919, okay? Over 100 years ago, okay? So if those guys they say it's possible, okay, what happened in history that killed it all? Because we should have had this stuff 100 years ago. So what killed it? Well, I'll tell you what killed it is the physicist. The first guy that killed it was Einstein. And when he came up with his theory of relativity, which most of the stuff he stole from Oliver Heaviside. And then you had J.J. Thomson. So I did some digging on those two, and apparently the story is both of them were blackmailed. Basically, if Einstein did not present his theory of relativity to the world as they wanted, not how he wanted, because he didn't believe in the ether physics. So if you don't believe in the ether physics, then everything we have in our house today will not run. It's impossible. Electricity is impossible. So obviously we know that's all bullshit. So basically they said to him, if you don't present it the way we want to present it, you're not getting a Nobel Prize. And they did exactly the same thing with J.J. Thomson, because he knew that the electron was not electricity. It's the resistance in electricity. That's what the electron is. And he could not represent that in his publications. And Cambridge University would not allow that publication to go through. So they said to him, if you don't present it the way we want it, we're not giving you the Nobel Prize for the discovery of the electron. So you can do your digging. It smells conspiracy right from day one. There was patent wars like crazy back then. Tesla was fighting with Marconi over radio. All the stuff, like even, the Morgans, the Rothschilds, all those guys were conspiring to basically keep everybody in the 1890s for the next 300 years if they can, just by simply having AC electricity and DC. That's it. That's where it stopped. And if we continued with our technology, we'd be light years ahead of where we are right now. It just boggles my mind to think if Tesla was alive right now in his prime, the stuff he would be creating. Because he would have all these components, all this stuff that we have now that he didn't have back then. Blows my mind. So, food for thought. So, yeah, do some research. Do some history research on these guys. Fascinating. Sometimes they give you clues on how to build stuff like this. And more I read about Tesla and what he was doing with the spark gap makes me feel that the spark gap has more credence to it than it meets the eye. There's something there that's special. And I think that is the orifice on where the radiant energy enters the system. It's not only just this, it's also this. This is a vital component. So I'll leave it at that. Food for thought. Go to teslauniverse.com. They got all those patents all listed and more. You can print them off, study them, see what Tesla was, see what kind of mindset he was in. Because, the more I study these guys, the more ideas are popping in my head. So, and then you start piecing it together as like a puzzle. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm learning a lot. So we'll leave it at that. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, give me a thumbs down. Don't forget, bottom right corners, that little icon, you can subscribe to my channel. I'm working on the inductor right now for the Don Smith generator. I just want to show you a few of the components you're going to need. I have the product listing for this in my last video, I believe, or the one before it. So you can actually pick up these generators. They're not expensive at all. They're pretty cheap. So we'll leave it there. We'll see everybody in the next video. Don't forget to donate to the channel. Helps me buy the components I need to get these projects going. So, you know, a couple of bucks here and there never hurt anybody. So thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you soon. And thanks for all the comments.